You are about to make the best zucchini cake. It's a snack cake, it's an olive oil cake, it's an olive oil zucchini snack cake in one, and it is perfect for summer, and I think we better make it together. Let's go. So usually zucchini cakes are chocolate, maybe have certain spices in them, or they're usually a loaf cake or a bread, as we call them. This is a little bit different. This is a convergence of one of my favorites, an olive oil cake with a lot of zucchini in it. So it's a lightly flavored cake that has some orange flavors coming through. It has olive oil, which actually the point of it is not just for moisture, but also for flavor. So to me, it's a really simple cake. I would call it a snacking cake. And sometimes you hear that term thrown around, what's a snacking cake? It's a simple cake that goes together in one bowl really quickly and can be made in times of emergency for a snack. That's what this is. So we're gonna start with 2 eggs and we're gonna put them right into the bowl. Now I know you're always thinking, why don't you tell me all the amounts of everything? Guys, one, that's a lot for me to say in a video and I'm not that professional. No, it's also just, you don't have to write them down as I'm talking. The recipe is in the video description, also on my website. I have it both places for you. So I have 2 eggs in here. I'm just gonna break them up just somewhat. You can see what I'm doing. I'm just making sure I get that all kind of worked out, a little bit combined. What is it? We're gonna put in the sugar. So I'm making this a very simple, non-fussy, I think we all go through different variances when it comes to desserts. Sometimes we want things that are really, a lot of work and take a lot of effort, and sometimes we just want things that are really simple. So what I have here is, you can tell, slightly thickened sugar and eggs. When you mix it together like this, see how it takes on a nice viscosity? And I'm just doing this by hand. It took a minute there, but it gets a pale yellow color, falls into a ribbon on itself, but completely disappears quickly. So now we can just add in the rest of our wet ingredients, which we're gonna start with the olive oil. Now use whatever olive oil you have in your kitchen to cook with. I like one that has a nice flavor, that good aroma to it, and it will be fine. So we're gonna put that right in there. So just like when we do other zucchini recipes for dessert, they usually have oil. Well, this is the same, except it's using olive oil. We're also gonna add in a little bit, not a lot. I'm using Greek yogurt. If you don't have that on hand, but you usually keep, say, sour cream on hand, use that. It's like whatever you have on hand is fine. And we're gonna add that in there. This is giving us, one, a little bit more moisture, a little bit of tang to offset some of the other flavors, and a little bit of acidity, which is good. So now, of course, the normal things we add in, which is a little bit of vanilla. Vanilla is, of course, gonna be a nice, sweet, light flavor. And then the weird one here that might be out of the blue is just a stitch, very small amount of almond extract. Now, almond to me has this ability to play surprisingly well with orange, right here, this orange. With all that zest we're gonna put in there, somehow to me, it brightens it, it brings it out more. So I'm just taking my grater and I'm holding my grater, and that's what I'm actually moving with my hand, because I think this is the best way to get zest off. And what I wanna do is just get all that bright orange color, leave the white, and if you were here instantly, what I'm smelling is a little bit of that essence of the almond with this bright citrus orange oils that are coming out as I'm grating it. And I already know this is gonna be delicious. So I'm grating it, I'm just gonna pop it right in here. So we have it all in there, and now we can just mix it together. I'm gonna use my whisk again. We're just gonna make sure we get that oil, the little bit of yogurt or sour cream, all mixed in there, and guys, all of that orange zest, which mixed with the almond just really does smell good, and a little bit of vanilla. It just works together. So that's all mixed, and now we're gonna add our semi-wet ingredient that is also not wet. It's the zucchini. Now, it has a lot of moisture usually to it. Now, let me show you. I have large zucchini that I sometimes forget in the garden. So when I get those in, I make sure to take a spoon, I cut them in half, and I take out any of the pithy, seedy center, because that has a lot of excess moisture. It also just, to me, has not great texture. So I am just going to measure out what I need here and put that right in. Zucchini has the ability to be almost a wet ingredient, almost not. It's one of those really interesting ones. And you can see, I just use a hand grater when I do it. You can use a box grater, whatever works for you. It goes pretty quickly. So I have that right in there, and I want to stir that together with the wet just to make sure that's incorporated. So I'm just gonna kind of, you don't have to worry about mixing it, just mix it until it's somewhat combined. See how easy that is? Pretty easy. Now that that's all put in there, we have the zucchini, it smells amazing, the dry ingredients. So we have just all-purpose flour, and we can put that right in there. See how this is one bowl? It's a one bowl wonder. That's what we want. We of course need some salt. Don't forget that. That offsets sweetness, brings out flavors. We have some baking powder, that's super important there. And then some baking soda, which is also important. We're gonna put that in there, and now we can just mix that together. You just wanna mix them until they're well combined. We're not worried here about, I think sometimes at this point, we actually tend to overmix. And to me, doing it by hand like this, instead of a hand mixer or a stand mixer, you have the ability to not overmix. You want it until it's just mixed, all those dry ingredients are in there. And if there's a few little pieces, that's actually okay. I'd rather have that than overmixing until it gets coarse and dry. And now we can pop it into our awaiting pan, which I have here, a baking pan that is just for a cake, a normal cake layer, but you can see I have it sprayed with non-stick. You can butter it, grease it, but then I also have some parchment in the bottom. Now, the parchment is just added insurance, just to make sure that it comes out nicely, which is to me important. So we're gonna take all this and just put it right into our pan and even it out. And you know me, I am a stickler. I like to make sure every last drop gets out of that bowl, because that is goodness, that is flavor, and I'm not gonna leave any behind. And you know what, if nothing else, I feel like if I would ever not get it all out, my mom would just show up and be like, Caleb, give me that bowl, I need to finish it, because that's what she does. We're gonna even it out somewhat, you know, as best you can. Again, this is a weeknight cake. This could also be a weekend cake. It depends whatever you're in the mood for. I just sometimes have an emergency cake need in the middle of a week. So I'm gonna make sure I get off any of the spatula, and we're gonna pop this right into the oven and let it bake. So I pulled the cake out a while ago, let it cool down slightly, popped it out of the pan, which by the way, it just slipped out because of that parchment. You can see the parchment even stayed in the bottom. No issues whatsoever, which I love. And now it's been cooling for a little bit on the rack too. I want to put a quick glaze on it, so I don't want it to be hot because then the glaze will just melt off or into it. So I have a plate, I'll put it on here, and you can see just how easy this cake is to handle. It's a beautiful, just simple cake. I don't know, I love simplicity anymore. To me, that's where it's at. So for the glaze, we're gonna make it pretty simple. We have some powdered sugar, which, as we know, for a glaze is what works really well. I have that orange that I zested for the cake, and now what I'm gonna do is use the juice for the glaze. And that's gonna give it a little bit of that pop of citrus, but also gonna act as the liquid we need to really pull a glaze together. So we're gonna start with just half, and we'll see if we need to, because you can always adjust the liquid. And I just want a stitch, and I just mean a drop or two of vanilla, which I think balances out that acidity and the orange. So we're gonna mix this together till it's just smooth, which you can see as I'm going, it slowly mixes in. And this is the beauty of powdered sugar and making a glaze, is you can adjust it, just don't overdo. You could always add more powdered sugar if you need to thicken it, but don't overdo it in the beginning with the liquid. This is just about perfect. See how it just kind of falls off? So now we're gonna pour a little bit of this on, and I don't want it to be so much that it's pooling everywhere. I want just enough that it just gives it a little pop of sweetness. Think of it like if you were going to powder sugar something. It just adds a little bit of that essence that you want to kind of just taste it all together. And you can see the glaze just kind of slightly gives a nice shine to it, and I think it just leaves a sheen on the top. Do you see that? That's what I love about it. It's just a very simple sweetness at the top. That's all it's needed. So then we just serve it up, we enjoy. Now, when it comes to a cake like this, you know, you don't have to worry about the frosting, you don't have to worry about anything. It's just ready to go, and it's very servable. And what I like is, since there is that olive oil in it, it keeps well, and it keeps that moisture. So obviously, you know me, I'm like the king of wanting to freeze everything, so you can always just freeze this, but it also just works well left out for a day or two because it holds on to that moisture. And that's what you love. Of course, wrap it up, but there it is in all of its glory. What I personally like is the green specks. Now, some people, if that freaks you out, you can peel them. Why would you though mask the zucchini that's in there? I'm proud of finding another way to use my zucchini that's coming in from the garden that I have oodles of. You know what I mean if you grow it. If not, you can just buy one. I don't think anything can describe the perfect pairing of orange to vanilla to that stitch of almond that you don't know is there, but it just brings the flavors out. And obviously zucchini doesn't have a flavor, but if it did, this is what I would want it to be. And what I love is it almost has like a moist scone consistency. Super moist. That little bit of glaze just really sets it off. Guys, this is good. This is delicious. This is actually maybe one of my favorite new ways to enjoy zucchini, as we all should find ways to enjoy it. So what I hope you do with this, I hope you make zucchini cake, because if there's ever an excuse, this is it. I hope you enjoy the season to the fullest, which means using zucchini in whatever way you can, and share this video around. Because when you share these videos, it helps me, but it helps everyone else see if this guy can do it, anybody can do this and enjoy some good food. That's the point. Check my website, wiseguy.com, for this recipe, all my other recipes. And until next time, find a massive zucchini and put it to work.